This week, we meet the new Chaldean Patriarch. We speak with the head of the Pontifical Council for promoting the new evangelization, and we mark the 84th anniversary of the Lateran Pact. Hello and welcome to Vatican Connections for the week of February the 8th. I'm your Vatican Connection, Alicia Ambrosio. Now there was a lot going on this week, so let's go. A couple weeks ago we told you that the Synod of the Chaldean Church was being held to elect a new Patriarch. Well, the new Patriarch was chosen January 31st, and it is His Beatitude Louis Raphael Sacco I, formerly the Archbishop of Kirkuk. In a message, Pope Benedict XVI told the new Patriarch that his ministry is to both comfort the Chaldean faithful in the mother country and in the diaspora, but also the entire Catholic community and the Christians who live in the land of Abraham, and be conducive to reconciliation, mutual acceptance, and peace for Iraq. Pope Benedict XVI's message for Lent was released. The reflection is focused on faith and charity. The Pope chose the theme, Believing in Charity Calls Forth Charity. We have come to know and believe in the love God has for us. In it, he says that the faithful are called to develop a deeper personal relationship with Christ because it will awaken the spirit to others and turn love of neighbor into a reality, not just a commandment. Archbishop Vincenzo Paglia, the president of the Pontifical Council for the Family, presented the final numbers of the 7th World Meeting of Families that took place in Milan in May of last year. Now, as a result of that meeting, the Council is launching 2 new initiatives, a Charter of Rights of the Family and a pilgrimage of families from all 4 corners of the globe to the tomb of St. Peter. And that's to mark the year of faith and, as the Archbishop said, to restore the intrinsic value of the family in a society bent on distorting its genome. The next World Meeting of Families will be held in Philadelphia in 2015. Also this week, the Pontifical Council for Promoting the New Evangelization inaugurated an exhibit called The Path of Peter. The exhibit is one of the Council's initiatives for the Year of Faith, and it's a collaborative effort between 9 countries. It includes pieces from the 4th and 5th centuries all the way to the beginning of the 20th century. Archbishop Rino Fisichella said, looking upon the works of art, believers and non-believers have different reactions, but beauty expresses a call to one and all to listen to that message that can be perceived in the silence of contemplation. The exhibit opens Thursday in Castel Sant'Angelo in Rome, and it will be there until May 1st. This week also kicked off a 3-day gathering that focuses on emerging youth cultures, and it's sponsored by the Pontifical Council for Culture. Cardinals, philosophers, professors, and lay experts will spend these 3 days listening to and mingling with young people and students in an attempt to learn to understand their language. The head of the Council for Culture, Cardinal Gianfranco Ravasi, recently admitted to reporters he didn't feel he had a good understanding of youth culture and went out to get a copy of an Amy Winehouse CD so that he could better understand the music people are listening to. Now, he said he found a deep sense of yearning even in this popular music. Now, in the last edition of Vatican Connections, we brought you a CNS interview, or part of a CNS interview, with Wojtek Giertych, the papal theologian. This week, we bring you the second installment of that interview with his considerations about Pope Benedict's most important speech.
The most important discourse that I think that Pope Benedict XVI gave in his pontificate was the discourse he gave in December 2005 to the Roman Curia, where he said that we need to read the Second Vatican Council in a hermeneutic of continuity. Now, it happens sometimes in culture, in certain cultural contexts, that certain issues are misunderstood because the meaning of words changes. because new questions have arisen, because there is a wider historical geographical perception, because the sciences have moved on and discovered certain things. And so there is seemingly a conflict between the teaching of the church and the social context. And so the church, in some sense, has to step back and look more in depth and reread the tradition which is transmitted from the time of the apostles, and maybe reformulate it in a way so as not to suggest or trap a conflict where there really is no conflict. And so the Pope in that discourse mentioned that the Church at Vatican II had to deal with, and he listed several questions, the relationship between the sciences and faith, particularly the historical sciences, with all the discoveries of the archaeology of history of the Middle East. And so this had an impact on the reading of Scripture, and we have the Dei Verbum as a result. The relationship of the Church to the modern state, and the question of religious liberty. If we're aware that in the 19th century religious liberty was understood as an act of the intellect, that the intellect can be free from truth, and the Church was saying, no, this is madness. Whereas in the 20th century, religious liberty is understood as an act of the will, that the will is not to be forced by external pressure. The Church has always said that faith has to be a free act. So the angle of approach is different, but basically the teaching is the same. So Vatican II tried to undo certain resistances to the faith that were present in the Western world. Now, I found a discourse of Albino Luciani, the future John Paul I, who, as a young bishop, when the council was called, spoke to his priests. And Luciani said that the fruits of the council will be sanctity, but that may come after a long period of difficulties, of misunderstandings, and so on. So the question of how do we read Vatican II, the Pope here gave a very clear line of interpretation.
Did you know the Church has 10 patriarchates, 4 in the Latin Rite and 6 in different Eastern rites? The Pope doesn't appoint all the patriarchs. In some of the Eastern rites, a synod is held to elect the new patriarch among the bishops of that rite. Now, last week we told you about how Pope Benedict released a motu proprio, or 2 motu proprios, but one of them was called Fides per Doctrinam, and it puts catechesis under the watchful eye of the Pontifical Council for the Promotion of the New Evangelization. We spoke to Archbishop Rino Fisichella on the phone, and he joins us now. Archbishop Fisichella, thank you for joining us. Can you tell us what's the significance of the Holy Father's motu proprio for your Pontifical Council?
Well, I will say that is a very important moment for us, because essentially it comes in a peculiar moment. So after 50 years of the beginning of the Second Vatican Council, we have this competence for our dicastery.
So why is catechesis now under the watchful eye of your council?
The teaching of the Vatican II, it was with this motu proprio realized in concrete, because in the Vatican II we have several passages in which the fathers of the councils, they said that the catechesis should be a very important moment for the evangelization. That was also a task very important for bishops, first of all, and then for priests, and then for the lay people. So I think that after this work of 50 years, the motu proprio Fides per Doctrinam gives to the new evangelization a very important moment in order to understand the actuality of the Vatican II, the teaching of the Vatican II, and also the possibility for us to continue in this horizon of formation.
And my last question, Archbishop, what did the recent synod do for your council? Are you happy with the new energy around the work, around your work?
We are very enthusiastic, and we are also very grateful to the Holy Father because this new responsibility is for us a new work, and also is a new goal to reach for the new evangelization. But we are sure that we are not alone, because there is bishops in the church, there is a priest, there is lay people, and all very engaged in the catechesis. And I think that putting together all these people, we can do a very good work for the church.
Once again, thank you, Archbishop, for joining us. Time to take a look now at the appointments the Pope made this week. Joseph Edra Ukpo resigned as Archbishop of the Archdiocese of Calabar, Nigeria. His successor will be Bishop Joseph Effiong Ukuen, who was until now Bishop of Uyo. The Holy Father also accepted the resignation of Bishop Grégoire Gabroyan, head of the Eparchy of the Holy Cross of Paris of the Armenians. His successor is Bishop John Thérouz, who until now was Bishop of the Patriarchal Curia of Cilicia of the Armenians. And the Diocese of Paris, France, also has a new auxiliary bishop, Monsignor Michel Aupetit. Monsignor Aupetit is Vicar General of the Archdiocese of Paris, and he is also the author of various books and articles in French and many other publications. Uganda has a new nuncio, Archbishop Michael Bloom. Until now, he was the apostolic nuncio to Benin and Togo. And Brazil has a new diocese. The territorial prelature of Cametá was elevated to the title of diocese, and Pope Benedict XVI appointed Archbishop Jesus Maria Cisaure Berdonces, who was born in Spain but has been living in Brazil since 1972. Bishop Cisaure was bishop prelate of Cametá since 2000, and he becomes the first official bishop of Cametá. Time to look now at what the Pope did this week. Last Saturday, the Pope celebrated Mass at St. Peter's Basilica on the occasion of the Feast of the Presentation of the Lord. This Mass is traditionally for the members of the Institutes of Consecrated Life and Societies of Apostolic Life. So the congregation at this Mass was full of men and women who have consecrated their lives to Christ. On Monday, Pope Benedict received the new Chaldean Patriarch, His Beatitude Louis Raphael Sacco I. And on the same day, in the afternoon, the Holy Father received the President of the Republic of Italy, Giorgio Napolitano, on the occasion of the celebration of the 84th anniversary of the signing of the Lateran Pacts of 1929. Now, these pacts defined the borders of Vatican state after the invasion of the Papal States by the Italians in 1890. To celebrate this same occasion, Pope Benedict and the President of Italy attended a concert featuring the orchestra of the Maggio Musicale Fiorentino, conducted by Maestro Zubin Mehta. The concert featured, among other pieces, Verdi's La Forza del Destino. Proceeds from the concert go to the Flying Angels Foundation, an NGO that is chaired by the Ambassador of Italy to the Holy See, and it provides airline tickets to disadvantaged children in need of specialized medical care. On Wednesday, the Holy Father had his traditional general audience, where he continued his series of lessons on the profession of faith, or the Creed, moving from why we call God Father Almighty to why we affirm God as creator of heaven and earth. Taking part in the general audience was a group of chefs spotted by CNS's eagle-eyed photographer. It's time once again to take a look at the questions that you've sent us via Facebook, Twitter, and all other means. So this week we've got one question from Daniel Luke. He asks, how many rooms are there at the Vatican? Well, Daniel, that's a bit of a difficult question to answer because the Vatican is not just St. Peter's Basilica and the Apostolic Palace, but a whole complex of other buildings. We have the Vatican Museums, the Papal Apartments, all of the offices of the various services. We have the Santa Marta, and we have the Governatorato building, and a whole host of other buildings at the Vatican. So as you can imagine, there's no exact information about how many rooms there are. Vatican Connections is interactive. Send us your questions or comments by Facebook, Twitter, email, or post. Via email, send comments to info@saltandlighttv.org. And by post, send letters to 114 Richmond Street East, Toronto, Ontario, M5C 1P1, Canada. And it's time once again to look at our Roman profile. Now this week we've already mentioned that it is the 84th anniversary of the signing of the Lateran Pacts. So we're going to take a look now at the man who was really the architect behind the Lateran Pacts, Pope Pius XI. Ambrogio Damiano Achille Ratti was born the fourth son of a silk manufacturer. He entered the seminary at the age of 10 and was ordained in 1979. That same year, he was transferred to Rome. He served as a librarian during the pontificate of Pius X and nuncio to Poland under Benedict XV. He was made cardinal in June of 1921 and would be elected pope in February of 1922, taking the name Pius XI. In 1929, he signed an agreement with the government of Italy, defining the borders of Vatican City and recognizing the sovereignty of the Pope. In return, the Holy See recognized the Kingdom of Italy, ruled by the House of Savoia, with Rome as its capital. Pius's pontificate, like his pre-papal career, was marked by great diplomatic activity. He openly opposed the youth activities of the fascist government and published the papal letter Non abbiamo bisogno, we have no need, in 1931. It showed that one could not be both fascist and Catholic. Relations between Mussolini and the Holy See deteriorated after that letter was published. Pius denounced Germany's Nazi regime and Nazi theory in his encyclical Mit brennender Sorge, issued in 1937. Soon after, he issued the Analysis on Atheistic Communism and denounced persecutions in Russia, Mexico, and Spain. Pius spoke out against nationalism, racism, anti-Semitism, and totalitarianism, and he spoke for human dignity. He established the new feast of Christ the King to recall the rights of religion in the state. He called for greater participation by the laity, a movement he called the Catholic Action. He supported missionary work, but wanted to integrate Christianity with native cultures instead of making them European. And to protect Eastern Rite Catholics from Latin influence, he established a commission to study their canon law and exhorted Western Catholics to embrace their brothers of the various Eastern rites. Pius loved technology and sought ways for it to benefit the Church. He established Vatican Radio, modernized the Vatican Library, and reconstituted the Pontifical Academy of the Sciences in 1936 with a large international membership. It was rumored that before his death in 1939, he was working on an encyclical against racism. However, no trace of that letter has ever been found. He remains the father of Vatican City as we know it today. Well, that's what's been happening at the Vatican this week. Next Wednesday is Ash Wednesday already, and as per tradition, Pope Benedict will preside over Mass at the Basilica of Santa Sabina. Krista Matrenko will bring you that Mass live from Rome at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, 7:30 a.m. Pacific. Next week, we'll also bring you details on the new saints and blesseds that are set to be approved in a consistory. So join us again for that. Now, before we leave you, we have a clip of the concert that was held at the Vatican earlier this week for the 84th anniversary of the signing of the Lateran Pacts. From everyone here, thank you for watching.